Birds are yelling, as always. Okay. Hi there! So, it is October and most artists, especially on Instagram, decided to join something that is called Inktober. And I thought to myself, hey, I wanna join too. However, when I read the prompts for each day, I felt not so hyped about it. So I decided to do my own version, which is basically 31 days of Danganronpa. Basically what the 31 days of Danganronpa means is I took the popular 25 days challenge and changed it a little bit and extended it to fit 31 days. And instead of just drawing the character, I decided to use a color palette with each day, and each color palette was assigned randomly. However, there aren't enough color palettes as well for 31 days, so for the last 6 days, I will just pick my favorite palettes, and for the very last day, I'll just go with the original colors. However, I set myself one rule, which is characters should repeat as little as possible, otherwise out of the 31 days, 10 days would only be Yasser, and I personally didn't want to do that because I want to have variety in this challenge, so I gave myself that limitation, which had me thinking in some cases, but you'll see what I mean. I also decided to go with a very simple style of drawing, which is mostly just upper body and flat colors and just very simple things, really. Well, let's get started, shall we? So for day 1, I had the trope favorite character, and obviously I would draw Yasser. If you follow me on Instagram, or if you've been here long enough, you know that I love this boy. He is in my intro every time. I mentioned in my video Get Cosplay Ready With Me Yasuhiro Hagakure that I love him and he's my favorite boy. For some odd reason, however, he took me the second longest to draw. I didn't feel that well on that day, probably because of that. It took me 53 minutes to draw. Usually I need 20 to 60 minutes, and this one took me quite long for whatever reason. The reason why I love Yasuhiro so much is basically I just relate to him in a lot of ways, and his personality, he's just so funny and I love it. He's like this airheaded idiot, which is kind of charming to me, and I'm probably one of the few people who says this, but I also really like his design. And overall, he's just laid back and really chill, unless there's like a situation that makes him freak out, but to be fair, who wouldn't freak out in a killing game, you know? Other than that, I just really love this man. I don't know what it is. The color palette I used for Yasuhiro is Tuesdays, which is this bluish, yellowish color palette, and I didn't have any problems working with it. I had enough colors for each part. In some cases I didn't have enough colors and I had to like try different variations to make it fit. You'll see later what I mean with that. And I'm glad that it worked out quite well when it came to the coloring. So for day 2, I had least favorite character, and as you already saw, it's Kazuo Tengen from the Future arc. And the reason why I don't like him is just he's so poorly written, and he's such a bad mastermind as well. Like, you could say I'm really salty because there's a different character that would have been a very, very good mastermind, and it would have made sense, and I'm getting salty again. I don't know, it's just his reasoning why he became a Remnant of Despair was so stupid, and just the fact that he was so overpowered, like out of nowhere, when he fought Munakata. I think it was Munakata. Yeah. I can't remember. All I remember is that he was very overpowered and just not a good mastermind, and oof, pretty much a waste of potential, really. The color palette I used for Tengen was This Is My Swamp, which, oh boy, the memes are everywhere. And it took me only 29 minutes to draw him, which surprised me because I've never drawn Tengen before. This is pretty much the first time. This is why I have a reference with me, because I just have no idea how to draw him from my head, you know? And it surprised me that it didn't take so long. For day 3, I had the trope best girl, and it may come to a surprise for some of you, but my personal best girl, by definition, would be Sakura. Just because she seems very scary, and she can be really scary if you piss her off or if you come at her the wrong way. But she is a sweetheart. She just wants to look out for her friends. She wants to be peaceful to everybody, and she wants everybody to be peaceful to each other, basically, which made her my best girl, personally. I mean, favorite girl and best girl doesn't necessarily mean the same thing, although I really love Sakura, but she's not really my favorite girl, you know, but I love her to pieces, and she's the queen of tiny teacups. No one can dethrone her with that, you know. The color palette I use for that is Anxiety, which is actually quite fitting if you think about it, considering her trial and Aoi and all of that. And it took me 32 minutes to draw. So for day 4, I chose Kiyotaka with the color palette Cyberbullies, which is very blue, and for whatever reason blue is always the color I associate with Kiyotaka, probably because he was very sad for a while in the game. And it took me 23 minutes to draw this, which is the shortest out of the 7 drawings shown in this video. The reason why I picked Kiyotaka is basically the same reason why I picked Sakura for best girl, because he looks out for the others. He is very naive, of course, he doesn't really understand many social things, but he does value friendship highly. Like, you saw it with Mondo, he was like valuing this friendship, even though they thought they knew each other for like, what, a week or so? And they really much hated each other at first. He also always sees the best in you and encourages you to show that side of yourself, which is something we all can need, you know? He would do anything to make you happy, and that's why I picked him to be best boy. So for day 5 I cheated a little bit because I didn't take a game protagonist, I took a novel protagonist, which is Codon, and I originally had Toko in there. I did struggle with her body at first because I didn't know what pose I wanted to give her, and in between Sai crashed and oh well, I should be used to that. The palette I had for her was I'm Not Alone Yet. And it took me 42 minutes to draw her, mainly because I didn't know how to draw the body at first, but I figured it out eventually. The reason why I chose Codon for favorite protagonist is because her and Yasser are the protagonists of Alter This Bahagakure, and it's only 5 chapters long, with each chapter like switching perspective. And within those 5 chapters, Codon had the most development I've ever seen. In personal opinion, like, she didn't have, compared to other protagonists, she didn't have that much time to show herself properly, but she had such a huge development in such a short time. And it just amazes me. And she's just such a fascinating character. And I love her. And I was also a bit biased at first when I first heard about her because I saw that she was related to Leon. And before Yasuhiro, Leon used to be my very, very favorite character. So she already had gained some bonus points there, just being related to the baseball boy. But then I read Alter This Bahagakure, and not only did my opinion on my favorite character change, I mean I still love Leon, don't get me wrong, but not only did my opinion on my favorite character change, my opinion on Codon changed so drastically that she's another one of my top favorite characters. Also, I drew her pouting. My usual go-to pose for Codon is like a peace sign and her tongue out, because she's a little bratty, but I didn't want to draw that again, so I decided to make her pouty. For day 6 I had favorite antagonists, and at first I had the entire group of the Warriors of Hope on my list, but then I was like, you know what, I don't like every kid. And then I narrowed it down to Masaru, because I actually really like Masaru, out of the 5 kids, the most. The palette I used was Pumpkaboo, which is such a pretty palette. I don't know what it is. It's not, those colors aren't even my favorite colors, and I love the palette so much. And it took me 48 minutes to draw. However, Sai crashed once more, and that's why I already had some stuff at the beginning. In total, Sai crashed 4 times. Once in the Sakura drawing, once with the Masaru drawing, once with the Kano drawing, and then one more time with the day 7 drawing, which I'm not gonna spoil yet. I am aware that I basically copied the pose he has in the sprite, but I initially wanted to draw him in that pose. So I guess it was coincidence that I picked that sprite to reference him from. Also, the first time I saw his design, I thought he was also related to Leon because they look so alike. He could be his little brother, like his lost little brother or something. Plus both of them have a sport-related talent, so I feel like at first he was like a mini Leon to me, which probably gained sympathy points as well. But overall, from his backstory and from his behavior, I like him the most. And for day 7 I had the tropes OTP, and the week started with Yasuhiro, so it's gonna end with Yasuhiro, and I drew my OTP Yasukanon. The color palette I use is Omniferous, I don't know how to pronounce that, and I had trouble here with the colors because it was 2 characters instead of only 1, and I had to play around, which you'll see once we reach that part, and it was pretty hard to use 5 colors only on 2 different people, especially with like the different color palettes they have in canon, you know? And it took me about an hour to draw, which I can kind of understand because it's 2 characters this time and not only 1. I also decided to give them non-canon outfits, just to make things easier, but it turned out it wasn't easier. The reason why it's my OTP, before that it used to be Ishimondo. I still love Ishimondo, don't get me wrong. The reason why this is my OTP is because of their interactions in Ultra Despair Hagakure. Because by the end of it they had such a great bond. Even though if you read it you might think, oh, Yasuhiro just stays with her because she's rich and money and he's in debt and all of that. But throughout the entire novel he drops like comments, he never tells her like how she's cute and adorable and all that. And I'm like, how can you not think he doesn't have a crush on her? I don't know, I just really like their dynamic, and I feel like after the events of Ultra Despair Hagakure they would still stay close and maybe have a relationship with each other. A girl can dream, okay? So that was it for week 1. I hope I can get it done, really. I've never done a challenge like that before because I'm usually not the type of person to stick to those challenges, but this time I really want to go through with it. And now that I actually told myself I'm gonna make a video on each week as well, I have to do it now. So watch me suffer, basically. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you next week for day 8 to 14, if I'm not wrong. Alright, bye bye.